Hey everyone, welcome back to Papa's Workshop. Today's video is all about this drill press by VEVOR. Now this is a 12-inch drill press that is a table mounted. It's going to be a very valuable asset to you in your woodworking shop. Now this is going to replace one that I have in my shop that's probably over 50 years old. And there's new features on this that just wasn't available 50 years ago. I want to explain right up front that this drill press by VEVOR is very similar to the drill press from Win as well as Briar. I don't know if they're actually made from the same manufacturer, but I do know that they're very similar features and very similar design. The next thing I want to point out is that it is packaged extremely well, and there are very, very few parts that you actually have to assemble to get this drill press up and running. A few handles, a few knobs, a chuck, and a few bolts just to bolt it together is all that's required to assemble this drill press. The first step is I want to put the column mounted to the base, and it requires these 4 hex bolts, and it takes a 16mm wrench just to be able to tighten them up. Then next I want to take the table lock handles and install that on the back side of the drill press. Now keep in mind these holes are pre-drilled and tapped, so it's just a matter of screwing it in. And this keeps the table from being able to move left and right. The second table lock handle goes onto the front side, and this will secure the table itself from being able to unexpectedly rotate. Next I want to install the table crank handle. Now this allows you to be able to raise and lower the table just by cranking this handle. And all it does is just slip onto this shaft. The Allen set screw is already in place. All you need to do is tighten it up with the Allen wrench that is provided in the toolkit. This is the first drill press that I have with this cranking handle that allows me to raise and lower the table easily. You can see just how fast it is to assemble this. Next, I'm going to take the motor assembly and just drop that on top of the column, and it just drops down right into place. There's one set screw that needs to be tightened. Once you get it aligned where you want it, tighten the set screw, and I don't think it could get much easier than this. Moving on to the next step is I want to install the 3 feed handles onto this crank that lowers and raises the drill bits. Now you're going to have a total of 4. 3 of them are one size. The 4th one is a little bit smaller. The 3 that are of the equal size need to go onto this portion of the handle. The 4th one, which is a little bit smaller, will go and be installed on the other side of the drill press. That handle allows you to be able to control the variable speed part of the drill press. You do have a wrench that comes in the accessories that allows you to tighten these handles very easily. On the other side of the drill press is where you install the 4th handle. And remember, this handle is just a little bit shorter than the other 3. Again, you can use the wrench that's provided in the toolkit to be able to tighten this handle. Now this handle is actually used to control the variable speed. Do not move this unless it's actually turned on and operating. At this point, the drill press is almost fully assembled. I want to tighten this table lock, and then I want to install these wing knobs. Now these actually go onto the bottom of this table, and they hold the extension rod in place. One will be mounted on the front side, and then the second one will be mounted on the back side of the table. And this holds in place the extension rod from being able to move. This way you can loosen these knobs, pull out the extension to the distance that you need, and then tighten them back up to hold it firmly in place. Although this next step is not 100% required because this table is allowed to be able to be rotated left and right, I do like to take the frame and square and be able to line it up center line off of the motor housing just to begin with. And then I can take this table lock handle and tighten it down. The chuck arbor and the chuck itself are a friction fit, and it just slips in. Rotate this until it slips into that housing. Now I tapped it with my hand just so it wouldn't fall out, and then the best thing to do from there is make sure that the prongs on the chuck are completely retracted take a block of wood and just tap it a couple of times to make sure that it seats in position. And of course, the last step is the holder for the chuck key itself, and it's already in place. Well, the assembly is completely done now. But as with any power tool, you need to thoroughly inspect it before you turn it on. You want to be able to check to see if there's anything that might cause a problem. And in this case, I did find a problem that I needed to rectify before I turned the machine on the first time. What I found was this key. Now this key was just lodged in here. Although it was loose, it still could cause significant problem because this was right at the shaft of the motor. And potentially that could have damaged the motor and the drill press itself. Unfortunately, I was not able to remove it from that location between the motor and that housing. I needed to open up this cover and gain access to where the pulleys are to be able to remove it. Now this key was completely extra. This key is actually designed to go on the shaft to be able to keep the pulley from being able to move. It was obviously dropped during the assembly and went unnoticed. It's now safe to turn on the machine for the first time. And at first glance, you just see the two pulleys. But these pulleys are not fixed. When you move the mechanism to be able to adjust the RPMs, these pulleys change in shape by moving up and down, allowing the belt to be a larger or a smaller diameter. And that's what adjusts the RPMs on the machine. On the old drill press, you had what was called the step pulleys, and these had to be manually changed to be able to step through the different speeds. On the front of the machine, you can see a simple diagram that shows the belt settings and the related RPMs. On the new drill press, the machine needs to be running when you adjust the speed so that these pulleys can adjust accordingly to be able to change the RPMs. To measure the RPM itself, there's a speed sensor located right there, and as that little metal tab connected to the pulley passes the speed sensor, it will measure the RPMs. This is a very simple yet effective method to be able to establish the RPMs. On the front of the machine, you can see the digital readout, and as you move this lever forward and backwards, you can see how it will adjust the speed of the machine itself. Now please remember, you only want to move this handle to adjust the speed with the drill press running. You do not want to do this with the drill press off. But you can clearly see and regulate the RPMs. You also have two lights here. One light is to be able to shine right onto your work. So you have the work light there. And then you also have the lasers. And the laser will identify exactly where your bit is going to be. I absolutely love that feature. This again is something that wasn't available 50 years ago, and I like having the crosshair there to identify exactly where the bit is going to hit the project. The chuck itself can accommodate bits from as small as 0.8 all the way up to 16 millimeters. So that gives you a wide range of the different choices. The lasers located right here, and if you need to adjust them, you can easily just adjust by loosening this set screw and then rotating this little brass dial left or right and then tightening back that set screw. So it's very easy to be able to adjust the lasers should you need to make sure that the bit is lining up dead center on the crosshairs of the laser beam itself. You also have this handy chart that identifies some recommended speeds depending on the size of the drill bit and the various types of material that you're drilling into. Another feature that you have is this depth gauge. You can drill from, of course, 0 up to about 3 inches of depth. Using the scale that's on the depth gauge itself, you can adjust this screw down to whatever depth that you want to drill to, and then use the second one to lock it in place. So in essence, you have the lock nuts right there that will hold a precise depth so that you can repeat drill precisely the depth that you have set. Another feature that I like is that you can tilt the table itself. And here is a gauge right here that you can use to be able to establish the precise angle as you tilt the bed of the drill press. All you need to do is just loosen the bolt that's underneath, and then you can tilt it and tighten it back. I grabbed a brad tip drill bit to be able to test out the laser to see exactly where it aligned, and I could see that it was just slightly off. Once I got it adjusted, then I could just tighten that set screw back. In addition, I found that that set screw was a little bit loose due to the shipping. So again, another reason to thoroughly inspect everything when you're setting up your new tools. Another one of the tests that you want to do is to see how much wobble that you have in this bit. And the best way to do that is with a dial indicator. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a dial indicator. So the next best way that I can test it is to use a very sharp brad tip bit, drill into the wood ever so slightly, just barely touch that bit to the wood itself. So all that's really touching is the point of the bit. That will give me a visual representation of exactly what's happening with the tip of that bit, and then I can measure that. Is that real accurate? No, and for the machinist out there, you're probably going to be laughing and thinking it's crazy. But for a woodworker, that will give me an accurate enough information to be able to see just how much of the wobble that I have in this bit, and from a woodworking standpoint, to see if it's going to be acceptable. For the machinist, maybe, maybe not. I think you're going to be using much more precise measurements. But here are the results of what I did with my simple test. Without the dial indicator, this is about the best that I can do. The first thing is, you'll notice that the bit is actually touching the crosshairs of the laser, and I barely touched the surface of the wood. Looking at the results, you can see a tiny little circle, and right in the center there's a little small piece of material standing proud. So the bit actually created a circle. If I try to measure that, the outer portion of that circle is somewhere around 0.57 of a millimeter. And again, that's based on the depth that I was going to. That center little piece that was sticking up is about 0.022 millimeters. Well acceptable within a range of tolerance for the woodworking world. The last step that I want to do is measure these to make sure that the table is square to the bit. And I'm going to measure this on the X and the Y axis to make sure that it's perfectly square. Another safety feature that you have on tools today versus the tools of yesteryears is this little pull-out plug. That's a little key that when it's removed, it will not allow you to turn the machine on. Great safety feature to have. You plug that back in and the machine will turn on. So if you remove the key, make sure you put it someplace safe so that you don't lose it. And there's a big difference looking at the old drill press that is literally decades old, and this was an 11-inch drill press, but it has served well and it's still a good drill press. I'm going to pass this along to my son so that he will be able to continue to get years of additional use out of it. In the description below, I have a link to the VEVOR website so that you can take a closer look at any of the additional information. But I hope you enjoyed taking a look and follow along on exactly how to assemble this machine and the features and benefits of having this type of a drill press in your shop. I hope that you did remember to subscribe and hit the bell notification so that you'll be notified of the different videos, because I will be building a dedicated stand to be able to put this drill press on, and you're not going to want to miss out on that. The VEVOR has been a very reliable company, and I have enjoyed having their tools in my shop. So come back real soon to see the dedicated cabinet build for this drill press stand. So until then, bye-bye.